political fundraiser for Martin Richardson at the lavish Fairmont Crest Country Club was supposed to be the absolute event of the season. We had the who's who of the town dressed to the nines, and even Genoa City royalty like Victor Newman, Jack Abbott, and Diane Abbott making a grand appearance. But as we all know in the soap world, the calm only exists to make the storm that much more terrifying. And oh, what a literal storm it is. A catastrophic tornado rips through the area, turning the luxurious country club into a desolate, ruined wasteland of shattered glass, crushed velvet, and absolute darkness. The physical and mental trauma left in the wake of this natural disaster is going to echo through the canvas for months, if not years to come. I am visualizing the sheer devastation right now, and it gives me chills just thinking about the psychological scars these characters will carry. Let me walk you through my thought process regarding one of the most chilling leaked images from the aftermath of the storm. We see Ted Richardson frantically navigating the dark, destroyed ballroom, and he comes across his daughter, Catherine Cat Richardson. Ted looks down and is immediately paralyzed by fear because Kat's hands are absolutely covered in thick, dark blood. He panics, telling her she is bleeding, but Kat looks back at him with a terrified 1,000-yard stare and drops a bombshell. It's not my blood. So this makes me wonder, whose blood is it? If Kat is physically unscathed, the blood has to belong to someone she was standing right next to when the disaster struck, or someone she desperately tried to pull from the wreckage. Ted's immediate, visceral panic is so palpable through the screen. I can see the sheer terror in his eyes as his brain connects the dots. If Kat is safe, his mind instantly shifts to his other children. Who else is trapped in this nightmare? Could it be Martin Richardson? This was his gala, his massive political fundraiser, his moment to shine in front of the entire town and his childhood friend, Kyle Abbott. Was Martin standing on the stage directly under that massive crystal chandelier when the tornado blew the roof off and sent it crashing to the floor? The thought of Tyrell's father lying crushed under a pile of sparkling glass and twisted metal is horrifying. Or what if the victim is Eva Thomas? Imagine the absolute horror if Eva, who is already dealing with the extreme embarrassment of her mother Leslie clashing with Darlene Hawthorne, was trampled in the chaotic stampede of panicked guests trying to escape the sudden darkness. The possibilities for gruesome injuries are endless, and frankly, I am terrified for the Richardson family. But that's not all. Ted's mind isn't just racing for the safety of his children. He is a man torn in multiple directions, frantically searching the shadows for the woman he loves. But here is the ultimate million-dollar question that has my mind spinning in circles. Which woman is he actually looking for in that moment of pure adrenaline? On one hand, Ted just beautifully reconciled with Shanice Johnson. After the tragic, heroic death of Derek Baldwin, Shanice realized life is too short and finally decided she wanted to fully commit to being with Ted. They had a breakthrough, and she even promised to make things up to him in the bedroom. It would make perfect sense for Ted to be desperately hunting for Shanice, terrified that he might lose her just as they finally found their footing. But we absolutely cannot forget about his ex-wife, Nicole Dupree. Nicole recently had a very candid chat with her mother, Anita, and then went straight to Ted's hospital office to confess her steamy, intimate fantasies about him. Is Nicole safe? Did she attend the gala? What if Ted finds Nicole trapped under a collapsed beam and has to save her, reigniting their old passionate flame while Shanice watches from afar? My theory is that the writers are setting up a massive, emotionally destructive love triangle fueled by trauma bonding, and Ted is about to be caught right in the middle of it. Meanwhile, across the ruined, dust-choked ballroom, another man is experiencing a completely different yet equally profound kind of panic. Andre Richardson is frantically, desperately searching for his wife, Dani Dupree. When Andre realizes Dani is nowhere to be found after the tornado has passed, his heart must completely shatter. We have to remember the deep, buried trauma that Andre carries with him every single day. He lost both of his parents simultaneously in a horrific plane crash years ago. He knows what profound, sudden grief feels like. The mere thought of losing his beloved Dani to a freak natural disaster is pushing him to the absolute brink of madness. He is out there, tearing through the debris, screaming her name, refusing to give up. Chelsea Hamilton is watching her stepfather's frantic, desperate search unfold in the darkness. In that harrowing, terrifying moment, as Chelsea sees the raw, unfiltered terror and absolute devotion in Andre's eyes, a profound realization washes over her. She knows, without a shadow of a doubt, that her mother put her faith in the exact right man. Andre's love is pure, protective, and absolute. It is a stark, glaring contrast to Chelsea's biological father, Bill Hamilton. When Bill and Dani were married, he was unfaithful, emotionally absent, and completely unbothered by Dani's emotional needs. Seeing Andre risk his own safety, completely unhinged by the thought of losing Dani, proves to Chelsea that true, enduring love exists, and her mother finally found it. Not only Andre, but everyone who knows Dani is deeply worried and joins the frantic search. With the combined efforts of the survivors, Andre quickly uncovers a horrifying piece of information. Dani didn't make it out of the building. She is trapped inside the country club's elevator. The power grid is completely fried. The cables might be severely damaged by the tornado's sheer force, and she is stuck in a suspended metal box in the pitch black. Andre immediately rallies everyone, shifting from a panicked husband to a man on a desperate rescue mission. They are putting in every ounce of effort to pry the doors open or repair the mechanical failure quickly to save whoever is inside. But let's shift our focus to the claustrophobic, suffocating nightmare inside that elevator. The situation in that dark metal box is chaotic, tense, and emotionally explosive. And it's made infinitely worse by the fact that Dani is not alone. By some twisted stroke of fate, she is trapped with none other than her arrogant, complicated ex-husband, Bill Hamilton. The psychological tension between these two is thick enough to cut with a knife. Bill, true to his historical nature, is letting his emotions, fear, and impatience completely override his logic. In the leaked previews, we see Dani completely snap at him. She angrily yells, "When have you ever waited for help in your life? This isn't just about the elevator. This is years of pent-up resentment, marital failures, and frustration boiling over in the dark." But as the minutes drag into agonizing hours, a harsh, terrifying reality sets in for both of them. They are trapped. The air is thinning. The temperature is likely rising. They suddenly realize that they need to stop bickering, stop fighting old wars, and desperately conserve their energy and oxygen if they want to survive until Andre and the rescue team can reach them. This brings me to a deeply concerning, potentially fatal realization about Bill's current physical state. We know for an absolute fact that his current wife, the scheming and malicious Haley Hamilton, has been slowly poisoning him. The toxic serum she hides in her cleavage is already building up in his system. Just days prior, Joey Armstrong noticed Bill's hands shaking uncontrollably. Bill is already suffering from severe tremors, weakness, and potential memory loss. His body is actively breaking down from the inside out. So, what happens when you trap a poisoned, physically deteriorating man in a high-stress, low-oxygen, adrenaline-fueled environment? My theory is that the extreme psychological stress of the tornado, combined with the severe claustrophobia of the elevator, will rapidly accelerate the poison's devastating effects. The toxins in his blood will spike. Bill could become severely weakened in a matter of minutes. I am genuinely terrified he might faint, completely lose consciousness, or worse, go into a full-blown, violent seizure right there on the hard floor of the elevator. In this perilous, isolated situation, no doctor can reach him. Dr. Kial Rollins and Nicole Dupree might be just on the other side of those steel doors, but they are completely useless to him right now. If Bill collapses, Dani will be entirely, solely responsible for keeping him alive. I am desperately hoping that Dani's sheer presence, her commanding voice, and her strength of will can keep Bill's spirit tethered to the waking world until those doors pry open. But as I sit here analyzing their dynamic, a slightly crazy, deeply unsettling thought creeps into my mind about what might happen in the dark confines of that elevator if Bill doesn't physically collapse. What if Bill, whose mind is heavily influenced by the toxic poison, the sheer panic of near death, and the sudden, overwhelming rush of nostalgia of being trapped with his first wife, completely overreacts to Dani's presence? We already know Bill has been deeply reflecting on the stark differences between Dani and Haley. Naomi Hawthorne even warned Bill to stay away from Dani because she suspected he was recatching old romantic feelings for her. What if Bill loses his grip on reality and acts entirely inappropriately in that tight, intimate space? I am absolutely terrified that Bill might try to force a kiss on Dani in the dark. I cannot stress enough how much I despise the idea of this happening. I do not want any kind of romantic, physical, or emotional crossover between Dani and Bill to occur. Absolutely not. Why? Because it would be the ultimate agonizing, soul-crushing betrayal for Andre. Andre is out there in the ruined ballroom, tearing his hands apart on shattered glass and twisted metal, moving heaven and earth to save his wife. Meanwhile, her ex-husband might be making a move on her in the dark. It makes my blood boil just thinking about it. If a kiss happens, even if Dani immediately pushes him away, it will create a toxic secret. If Andre ever finds out, he will feel like the ultimate loser. He already confessed his deep-seated fears to Chelsea about losing Dani to Bill. This would validate his worst insecurities. It would destroy him. And frankly, it would break my heart because Andre deserves so much better. I am firmly, unapologetically on Team Andre, and I need Dani to shut Bill down immediately, forcefully, and without hesitation if he even leans in her direction. The stakes have never been higher in Fairmont Crest. Between the bloody hands, the missing victims, the deteriorating health of a poisoned man, and the emotional warfare happening in a stuck elevator, this tornado is going to change the landscape of the show forever. I will be glued to my screen, analyzing every single frame, waiting to see who makes it out alive and whose heart gets broken in the process. Until next time, keep your theories wild and your soap drama strictly on the screen.